January 29th, 1945. Snow hangs in the air like frozen dust, drifting slowly over a small Belgian village that most maps barely bother to name. The war is almost over. Everyone knows it. But nobody here feels that way. For the men moving between shattered houses and frozen fields, the end still feels very far away. Company C of the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment is under strength, exhausted, and cold. But they are advancing anyway, because that is what the war demands. First Sergeant Lena Funk walks through the village with the steady pace of a man who has learned how to ignore pain. His boots crunch in the snow. His breath fogs the air. He has been awake for too long, fighting for too many days in a row, but his mind is clear. That clarity is what keeps him alive. Funk is not big, he's not loud. He does not look like the kind of man stories are written about. At 5'5", he disappears into a crowd of taller soldiers, but when things fall apart, men instinctively look to him. Minutes earlier, something went wrong. Prisoners escaped. Germans who were supposed to be disarmed and guarded are suddenly loose again, and Funk knows what that means. An enemy behind your lines is more dangerous than one in front of you. He turns a corner near a farmhouse, intending to check on the guards and move on at his routine. It is supposed to be safe. Instead, he stops. The world freezes into a single, impossible image. 90 German soldiers stand in the yard ahead of him. Some are holding rifles. Others are reaching for weapons stacked in the snow. For American guards kneel helplessly with their hands behind their heads. For a fraction of a second, nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Even the wind seems to pause. Funk understands the situation instantly. These men were prisoners less than half an hour ago. Now they are armed, organized, and preparing to attack Company C from the rear. If that happens, the Americans scattered through the village will be cut apart. The math is simple and brutal. Funk is alone. His men are captured. The enemy outnumbers him almost 100 to 1. A German officer steps forward. He is young, clean-shaven, his uniform still neat, despite the chaos of the fighting. He raises an MP-40 submachine gun and presses it firmly into Funk's stomach. The metal is cold, even through layers of winter gear. The officer shouts something in German, sharp and furious. Funk does not understand a word. He does not need to. The meaning is obvious. Surrender. The officer shouts again, louder this time, veins standing out on his neck. The soldiers behind him watch closely. They expect fear. They expect pleading. They expect a broken man staring at the ground. Leonard Funk looks at the gun. He looks at his captured soldiers. He looks at the Germans spreading out behind the officer, setting up what will soon become an ambush, and then he starts to laugh. It is not a polite laugh. It is not quiet. It bursts out of him, raw and uncontrolled, echoing off the farmhouse walls. The sound is so unexpected that it disrupts the moment completely. The German officer hesitates, confused. This is not how surrender is supposed to look. The officer screams again, furious now, jabbing the gun harder into Funk's stomach. Funk laughs louder. His shoulders shake. His breath comes in sharp bursts. For a second, some of the German soldiers glance at each other, unsure what they are seeing. A few even smile nervously, as if the laughter itself is contagious. Inside Funk's mind, something is happening that no one else can see. He is not thinking about escape. He's not thinking about survival odds. He's remembering something else entirely. A frozen field weeks earlier. American prisoners lined up, machine guns firing, men murdered after surrender. He had heard the stories. Everyone had, and he had made a decision then. A quiet one. The kind that does not feel dramatic until it matters. He would never surrender. The laughter buys him seconds. Seconds are everything. As the officer tries to process what is happening, Funk slowly raises his hands, still chuckling, as if he is finally complying. His movement is deliberate, unhurried. The German officer watches closely, interpreting the motion as obedience. Funk's hand closes around the grip of his Thompson submachine gun. The officer relaxes, whoos slightly. He thinks he has won. That single assumption, that tiny lapse in judgment, is the most expensive mistake he will ever make. Funk's laughter stops. In one violent, fluid motion, he swings the Thompson down, brings it level, and pulls the trigger. The weapon roars to life. The first burst strikes the German officer at point-blank range, dropping him instantly. Before the body even hits the ground, Funk pivots, firing into the nearest cluster of soldiers. Chaos erupts. Shouts. Gunfire. Men scrambling for cover that does not exist. Funk shouts to his captured guards, his voice cutting through the noise. Grab their weapons. Move. Now. The sound of the Thompson dominates the yard, sharp and relentless. Snow kicks up. Rifles fall. Germans who moments ago thought they were in control now scatter in confusion. Funk does not stop moving. He does not stop firing. There is no room for hesitation anymore. The choice has been made. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the gun clicks empty. For a heartbeat, everything hangs on what happens next. In that frozen pause, Leonard Funk stands exposed, his weapons silent, enemies recovering from shock. Every instinct screams that this is the end, that 90 rifles will fire at once. Time stretches thin. Breath burns. Fingers tighten on triggers. Whether he lives or dies will be decided in the next 2 seconds, and no one present yet understands what those seconds are about to bring for everyone watching there. Leonard Funk moves before fear can catch up to him. His hands work from memory, not thought. The empty magazine drops into the snow. A fresh one slides home. The bolt snaps forward. 2 seconds, no more. By the time the nearest German realizes what has happened, the Thompson is roaring again. The sudden return of gunfire breaks whatever order remains. The Germans had expected surrender, maybe a standoff, not a counterattack from a man they outnumbered. Funk advances as he fires, stepping sideways, changing angles, forcing hesitation. The 4 American guards, freed from shock, seize rifles from the ground and join in. Moments ago they were prisoners. Now they are fighters again. The yard dissolves into panic. Some Germans fire wildly. Others throw themselves flat in the snow. A few drop their weapons and raise their hands, shouting over the noise. Funk keeps moving until the resistance collapses. When the firing finally stops, the silence feels unreal. Smoke hangs low. 21 Germans lie dead. Dozens more are wounded. The rest stand trembling with their hands in the air. It has taken less than a minute. Funk lowers the Thompson. His hands shake now that the danger is past. He looks around at his men, making sure they are alive. 1 American lies motionless nearby, killed in the opening seconds. Funk feels the weight of it, but there is no time to stop. War does not pause for grief. Company C secures the rest of the village before nightfall. Reinforcements hurry back. The prisoners are marched away under heavy guard. When Funk reports what happened, he does so without drama. He does not embellish. He does not frame it as heroism. He describes the facts and moves on. The story spreads anyway. Soldiers, Tolkien too, always do. The sergeant who laughed with a gun in his stomach. The man who turned surrender into victory. Within weeks, paperwork follows. Statements. Witness accounts. Recommendations sent up the chain of command. No one disputes what happened. The facts are too clear. Months later, in Washington, the decision is made. Leonard Funk is awarded the Medal of Honor. On September 5th, 1945, he stands in the White House. The war is over. The uniform he wears is clean, but it carries years of exhaustion in its seams. President Harry Truman places the medal around his neck and speaks quietly, almost to himself. He says he would rather have this medal than be President of the United States. Funk accepts it with a nod. Then he goes home. He does not write a memoir. He does not seek attention. He returns to Pennsylvania and takes a job helping other veterans navigate a system that often forgets them. He works at a desk. He raises a family. The medals stay in a case. When people ask about the war, he shrugs. Did what I had to do, he says. Nothing more. Leonard Funk dies in 1992 and is buried at Arlington. His name is carved into stone among thousands of others. Most people pass it without noticing, but his story remains. Not because he was the strongest or the fastest or the luckiest. It remains because, in the worst moment of his life, when the math said surrender and survival said compliance, he chose to think instead of panic. He chose an action no one expected. Courage, in the end, was not the absence of fear. It was a decision made with a gun pressed into his stomach, when escape was impossible and laughter became the opening move, that saved everyone there.